Hello there. I just wanted to give a quick overview of a few days of use of the Bluetti EB3A, the new 268 watt hour Life PO4 portable power station. And I wanted to compare it to the Ecoflow River Mini 210 watt hour portable power station, which uses nickel cadmium batteries instead of Life PO4. And essentially, I wanted to say why the EB3A is so much better of a choice than the Ecoflow River Mini. So, getting started, the first being the fact that the Bluetti EB3A is Life PO4 instead of nickel cadmium. This is going to run you at up to about 600 life cycles before being 80% capacity. Meanwhile, the Bluetti EB3A gets 25 to 3,500, so about 3,000, 100% to total discharge 0%, back to 100% cycles before you're looking at about 80% capacity. This is 210 watt hours, and right now the sticker price is $280 on Amazon and eBay. This is $249 right now. So considering this has a much higher overall watt hour capacity, but it's also a Life PO4 instead of an NCM battery, that means in a year or so after just fairly regular use with this, you would notice more of a degraded battery than this after 2 years of regular everyday use, maybe even 3. So 1 year casual use, 6 months heavy use is about 3 years heavy use. And even then, 80% capacity, if you're talking about 80% of that being overall, instead of the rated watt hours, say it's about 80% of its potential gets used, you're still looking at about 210 watt hours of usable capacity versus 170-ish for this. So once this has 600 discharges and recharges, that 170 watt hours of usable use capacity will be 120, and you'll be noticing like, wow, I really can't charge my devices too much before this thing's dead. Meanwhile, this, after 2-3 years of heavy use compared to this 6 months, you'll be like, oh, okay, I noticed about 210 usable watt hours turned into about 70 usable watt hours. So basically, after years of use, the EB3A should basically get what this was brand new out of the box, which is kind of crazy to think about. So yeah, that's kind of my point number 2, is the fact that this is a much higher watt hour capacity. Yes, it's larger, and yes, it's 10 pounds or 22 kilos instead of 6.3 pounds or what is that, 14, 13 kilos, something like that. So basically, because this is more expensive and yet has a much smaller overall capacity battery, and it's much less prone to heavy use, and then still holding its capacity, I'd say like that's kind of my first 2 points for why the Bluetti EB3A is the clear choice. But right now, they are offering on their website with the code LIVEEB3A an extra 10% off. So that $250 goes down to $240. And now you're talking a $40 difference for much less battery capacity. And that's not even getting into the powerlifting feature that the Bluetti holds that copycatted Ecoflow's X Boost, but they chose to not include it in their River Mini. So that goes on to my next point. I have powered my 1,000 watt Bonavita electric kettle with this Bluetti EB3A many times, and it will boil water, and it only uses about 25% of its capacity, which you might say, oh, that's a lot just to boil some water. But if you're on the go and you just want to throw it in your backpack and bring your little kettle with you, go to the View and pour some drinking water in and pour a shot of tea or a little shot of espresso or, a little pour over of coffee, whatever, you have that ability. Or maybe scramble an egg with an electric kettle or make a grilled cheese or something, cook some rice with a high powered, pressure cooker even. 1200 watts. Actually no. So that's now that I mentioned that, let me get into the downside of the powerlifting feature is it lowers the voltage artificially, which basically turns this from a pure sine wave inverter into a modified sine wave inverter. So only turn on the powerlifting feature if you are very careful that you're not going to accidentally plug up your MacBook or, a high-end microwave or something that has a computer chipset that low voltage will destroy any high-end computer chipset, even a more basic one. So a hair dryer, something with just a switch of low, medium, and high, or an electric kettle even, that's okay. You can use modified sine wave and it won't, the kettle will not be any of the wiser. It's you that gets to reap the benefit of boiling water with lithium technology. It's LiFePO4, but it's still lithium. So just knowing your abilities of potential use is so far higher. Getting into my fourth big perk about the EB3A versus the Ecoflow River Mini is the fact that because it has a 400 watt AC charge with the charger brick built in, the Ecoflow River Mini only has a 300 watt max charge, also with the power brick built in. So I would love to give credit where credit's due. Very glad Ecoflow actually was the first to do that. That's yet another feature Bluetti has copied, but they've done it, in a way that works perfectly fine. Doesn't matter who did it first. Just matters that it's being done now, because all devices, I think, that you're going to pay hundreds of dollars for to have a portable power station, it just makes sense to build in a very high capacity power brick that you could fast charge if you wanted to. So this using 400 watts of input through just a little AC cord versus the Ecoflow River Mini 300, when you're only talking a 268, 210 watt hour capacity, that extra 100 watts of charge, that's going to get you out of that coffee shop or, State Beach parking lot where you're just plugged up to the outlet at the bathroom, or whatever scenario you have that you need a quick charge. It's just that much more useful with an extra 100 watts. So I have to make a whole point for Bluetti about that. The next one might not be a big deal to some. To me, it's an everyday used feature. It's this light. 1 watt, 2 watts. SOS light runs at 1 watt, and then back off. So pretty simple. You can control it in your app. So I could be at a campsite with an extension cord, and I tell my friend, hey, can you go unplug my cord from the portable power station, or something, can you go over there? And they're like, where? And from 20 feet away, Bluetooth range, I can turn the light on and off. So maybe you'll find a use for that. The SOS light, who knows, could save someone's life in theory. So better to have it, I guess, than not have it. The Ecoflow River Mini does not have any light at all. So that's a whole point for these guys. Also, aside from just the 400 watts to 300 watts of use, when you plug up your AC power cord into the Ecoflow River Mini, you get 300 watts about, but it starts slow, turns into 300 watts, and then once you're at 80%, the BMS will trickle that down, and it will be around 100 watts after 95% charge. Still decent, but the point is, when you compare that to the EB3A, that will draw 300 watts. Even at 95-ish%, it will be drawing 200 and something watts. So that trickle charge at the end is that much better in this. And beyond that, in the Ecoflow app, there's no way to basically tell the BMS, I'd like to charge this device slower. With the Bluetti EB3A, while I don't personally ever do this, you can slow charge it if you want. They say quiet mode, I think it's called, or silent mode, and then normal or standard mode, which is about 200, 250 watts, and then I don't even know what they call it, but you know, super mode or whatever, their highest charge mode, running at 400 watts. To me, I just keep it on because the fact that this thing goes thousands of cycles, like, you know, let's kind of poke at the, you know, durability of this battery's capacity. Let's see, you know, time is worth something. So if you're not charging it overnight, like for me, I'm just gonna be plugging it in, taking it out. You know, I charge it when I can, and then I don't. I unplug it. So I like having that always on. But I got to give another point to Bluetti for giving the option to turn that off. Another point for Bluetti, this is bringing it all the way to 7 points here, is the Bluetti EB3A can solar charge 200 watts of solar input, and the Ecoflow River Mini can only charge 100 watts of solar input. So just straight spec reading here. I personally have not put a 200 watt panel in. It works with my 120 watt panel, you know, just fine. But yeah, that being said, this does have a rating for twice the solar input. So if you would be using that, again, another point for Bluetti. Also, this is maybe particular to my scenario, but the Ecoflow River Mini, it connects to the app through Wi-Fi. Why is I don't know if that's what the problem is, but essentially with my device, I power it on, I go into the app, just like I did when I got the device, and I select River Mini, and I hold the IoT button, and a Wi-Fi logo shows up here, and I connect it to the app, download the firmware, and I'm good to go. I can see what's going on in the app, or in the power station from the app, just as intended. The problem is, I have had this device for a few weeks now, and after the first time of downloading that new firmware, my Wi-Fi will not work on this device. So I have no app connectivity, which is a real bummer, but it would be more of a bummer if that was true in the EB3A. It's not, but because you have that power lift feature, it means connecting to the app to turn that on and off is crucial. So, you know, this still works okay, but it just such a distaste to like have this new world of everything must connect to an app, and then it doesn't even work right. So, you know, ideally, I hope down the road these companies, at the very least, Bluetti, if you guys could have a power lift button, you know, why not? Why do I have to go into my smartphone for that power? Because I think you guys know, as a company, I'm not downloading that app. Me, you know, someone that doesn't like to have an app for everything. There is scenarios where I theoretically might use it for the weekend. I'll download the app. But I just really wish there was a button that let you turn on powerlifting mode and a switch that let you turn on and off the fast charging or the slow charging. There's no reason not to, other than you want us to download the app and you release products that don't have optimum firmware. And basically, you know, for mass production purposes, it's cheaper for you to include Bluetooth and get a nifty app than just refine the firmware before release. It's very simple. It's the way everything always worked until this last few years or so. And now you can't buy a microwave without updating it through Wi-Fi, and it's getting ridiculous. The reason I'd like to preach this in the portable power station realm is a lot of these people are buying products like this to get off grid, you know, even if that's for a month, even if that's, and I don't mean use this for a month, but just, you know, they have a cabin somewhere or whatever it may be. But to require app connection, it just has a bitter taste of reeling us back into this world of connect everything to everything. And even here, it's called the IoT reset, the Internet of Things. Like, we are not all on the same team when it comes to this Internet of Things. And I feel like having a Bluetooth connected app still sucks because you don't just have a power lift button. You don't just have a slow charge mode switch. You make me go into the app to use the full potential of the device. It's distasteful, and I hope more people start to put their foot down as consumers about it. I will still support you as a company because it's clear you listen to your customers. However, down the road, if something like that never changes and another company started making a similar product with those switches, I would in a heartbeat go buy their product. So, hopefully more people start chiming in about that. So yeah, it's Bluetooth and this is Wi-Fi. I don't know for sure that's why the Ecoflow River Mini doesn't work, but my Ecoflow River Pro connects through Wi-Fi just fine, despite the firmware updates. And my Ecoflow Delta Pro connects through Bluetooth just fine, despite firmware updates and whatnot. And the fact that Ecoflow's Delta Pro is their most premium, top quality product, and it's using Bluetooth connection, LifePO4, can you please start including that in your lower tiered products, like Bluetti has shown they want to do? So that's my main reasons for fixating on my preference of the Bluetti EB3A over the Delta or the Ecoflow River Mini. And the reason for this is their prices are comparable, their size is comparable. This is almost twice the weight of this. So if you are backpacking or something, I'd say again into that niche. Someone like that would find the River Mini to be the better choice. Also, the concave wireless charging with the rubber perimeter, another perk for Ecoflow. And one last thing for Ecoflow, their build quality is undoubtedly superior to Bluetti. Just let the sound speak what I'm saying. This feels very plasticky. Even the handle, while based on it being 10 pounds, seems fine. But that built-in handle, it's just a nice design feature. I appreciate Ecoflow having unique designs, and being the first to incorporate the built-in power brick. That rubberized perimeter to the wireless charging port is just so appreciated. So that when I return my Ecoflow River Mini, that will be what I miss the most. But I won't miss knowing that in 6 months of regular use of both of these devices, I won't even notice a loss in capacity in the EB3A by Bluetti. But in the River Mini by Ecoflow, I will absolutely notice a loss in capacity. I guess one other small point that for many won't be a big deal, but I watched a YouTube video of the Bluetti EB3A from one of the sent a free product YouTube reviewers that isn't Hobotech, because Hobotech is awesome. They said something about this screen having a firmware update where it could stay on. I can report with a firmware update up to date, you cannot keep the screen on all the time. The Ecoflow River Mini screen doesn't stay on all the time either, but it stays on a much longer time. Probably I'd say a minute and a half versus 30 seconds. For me, that's a big deal. I wish I could keep this screen on all the time because it looks much nicer than the EB55. Not even 30 seconds, I don't think. It's like 20 seconds and it shuts off. Yeah, so for many, that will be a non-issue at all. For me, I like looking at the screen. I don't want to look in my app. I like looking at the screen. At least the Bluetti EB3A works connected to the app. So that for me has been basically the biggest perk of the River Mini. But again, going into the overall day-to-day use, I just hate noticing, even my phone battery. I hate this feeling after like 2 years where you're like, man, that battery just isn't what it was. The last thing I want to say that to is a portable power station. So long live the Life PO4. All these new smaller power stations being made into Life PO4. I hope that trend continues and they make smaller and smaller inverters and smaller but highly capable power bricks that are built in. So you essentially can down the road have this size, this design maybe of a device, but it's Life PO4 and its capabilities include that 400 watts of charge and that 268 watts of lithium iron phosphate battery, and just those few extra features. And maybe, just maybe, don't force us to get an app to use all the features of the product. Would be really appreciated. Just a little size comparison here. This is my TechNet 155 watt hour generator. It's lithium ion. What's nice about 155 watt hours is you can fly with up to two 160 watt hour lithium batteries. So you can fly with two of these, and it's pure sine wave. Shows you, the power percentage. The light works great. It has a 60 watt power delivery that works fine for like a MacBook Pro or something. But if you compare the size, man, it is like 1/3 the size of the only 55 watt hours more capacity, 210 watts, 155 watt hours, River Mini to TechNet 155. 1/3 of the size. So the reason I'm showing this is it really shows you how much space is required for that power brick to be built in, and that 300 watt inverter. And for this, the 400 watt capable power brick built in, or the up to 1200 watt surge thanks to the power lift mode inverter, really 600 watts, but it will say on the screen higher than 600 watts and still run. The Ecoflow will not draw more than 600 watts for a surge. So 300 consistent, 600 surge, 600 consistent. They say 1200 surge. I haven't tested it, but this is, I don't believe including the power lift feature, because I've seen in Hobotech's video of the EB3A, he powered like an 1800 watt device, like a heater, and it worked. And I think that's because it's a 1200 watt peak, but with the power lift mode. Does that mean I could plug up a 2400 watt device and it would work? I mean, if so, that's unbelievable. Like, obviously with the modular or modified sine wave, it would basically be very weak and virtually unusable. So I'm sure there's like some level of a graph to that, where at a certain point it's not worth the threshold and you're just going to burn out the device. But anyways, the feature's there, and it really goes to show why this, extra size and extra 3.7 pounds over the River Mini could really be worth it for other people. So again, when you look at the nice design of the River Mini, just remember this will be in a dump somewhere. Assuming the battery's not easily serviceable, you're looking at, in 2 years, this thing is in some landfill somewhere. And with this, in 5 years, after 5,000 cycles, it's still got 65-ish% capacity. I mean, that's still some use, So just thinking about the environment and just your personal ability to use it regularly for years to come, I feel like the Bluetti EB3A is the clear choice when comparing the two. So that's my thoughts on it, considering I have both of these and I have pretty extensive use with the Ecoflow River Mini. Despite no app functionality, I did use the app when it worked that one time after I downloaded the firmware, before it no longer would reconnect through the IoT button. But I have just a few days use of this EB3A, and I'm really looking forward to the future with this thing, because boiling water anywhere I want, I don't care if it takes twice as long, it boils still. I could make some ramen noodles, I could pour over some coffee. I mean, it just opens up this whole world. A hair dryer even, you know, I personally wouldn't use a hair dryer, even though I have long hair, but you know, if you want to, I've heard many girls complain on a road trip about not having a hair dryer. So, you know, it just opens up a lot of potential uses, and that's why I felt the need to make a whole video about it, because if I could, you know, inspire just a few people that were on the fence between the two, just knowing that in 3 years that Ecoflow River Mini would probably be in a dump, and the Bluetti EB3A probably won't be. To me, that's like all the reason I need. But then right now, this is $40 cheaper than this. So that's some more reason. I mean, and this still connects to the app. This only did once I bought it for the first time. I will say Ecoflow got back to me right away. They've already sent me a label so I can send this back and get a replacement. However, I think I'm going to ask them for a refund, because now that I've experienced this EB3A, I just see no reason to have the River Mini. And that's one other thing. This River Mini is off, but the light blinks, the fan just starts going. It's almost like it's got the Wi-Fi is active and it's like communicating something. And the EB3A just never does that. So for me, it's like this just feels a little too smart housey. I love the design. But yeah, that being said, I don't know why it just randomly turns on and the fan kicks on for like 5 seconds, but it is kind of creepy. So anyways, I loved Ecoflow. I love the Delta Pro. I love the River Pro. I think the River Mini is a hard pass, and anyone that isn't some backpacker or I need the lightest item for a quick day trip at the beach, if that's not your, you know, you that extra 3 pounds and that, you know, slightly larger size, if that's not a deal breaker for you, you have every reason in the world to pick the EB3A over the River Mini. So hopefully that clear distinction in my hands-on experience, buying both of them with my hard-earned money, versus, you know, them sending me these products for free, it really helps to, you know, establish that I felt the need to buy the products because I use them in my day-to-day life. I've had dozens of generators over the years. I've never built my own solar system, but I've used every solar panel that has the right, voltage to work with a specific generator. Even back when Sun Tzu had those very proprietary solar panels that were made. I mean, I've always appreciated these portable power stations, and it's exciting to see how far they've come and how sophisticated they've gotten. So nothing against the app connectivity, but hopefully down the road they can include switches and not require the app to be able to use the device to its full potential. But that being said, this has been quite a bit longer of a rant or a ramble than I was looking to have. So anyways, thanks for your time, and hopefully this will help you make some decisions for anybody in this market. Thank you.